If you missed part 1, you need to watch it first. The link is in the description. But here's what happened. I came home from a work trip to find my belongings in garbage bags while my adoptive family live streamed my humiliation for social media content. They claimed I was a fraud who'd been lying about paying rent and having a real job. But then I discovered the truth that changed everything. My biological mother had left me a $4.2 million real estate empire that I knew nothing about. For 13 months, my adoptive family had been stealing $45,000 per month from my inheritance. They'd forged my signature on legal documents, intercepted my mail, and transferred $585,000 of MY money into their own accounts. And according to federal attorney Cordelia Blackwood, what they'd done wasn't just theft. It was federal wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, and identity theft, crimes that carried decades in prison. The family who threw me out like garbage had no idea what was coming for them. Because what happened next was the most epic federal takedown I've ever witnessed. And I was about to be the one orchestrating it. Magnolia Ashworth, no relation to Vivian, she assured me with a dry smile, arrived at Cordelia's office 30 minutes after the phone call. She was a federal prosecutor who specialized in family financial crimes, and her reputation for destroying white-collar criminals was legendary. "Show me everything," she said, settling into the chair next to mine with the focused intensity of a surgeon preparing for a complex operation. For the next 2 hours, we laid out the evidence like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that painted a picture of systematic, premeditated theft. Cordelia had been building this case for months, hiring private investigators and forensic accountants who documented every crime in excruciating detail. "Look at this timeline," Magnolia said, spreading documents across the conference table. They started planning this fraud 6 months before Thessaly's 25th birthday. These email chains between Vivian and Garrison show them discussing the trust problem and how to handle the situation permanently. She pulled up bank records on her laptop. The electronic transfers started the day after Thessaly's birthday. $45,000 transferred from her trust to an account registered to Vivian Ashworth. Then another $45,000 the next month. And the next. 13 months of systematic theft. But it was worse than just stealing money. They'd created an entire infrastructure of deception to cover their tracks. They filed false tax returns claiming Thessaly as a disabled dependent, Magnolia continued, her voice growing colder with each revelation. They submitted fraudulent insurance claims for mental health treatment that never happened. They even applied for federal assistance programs using her identity, claiming she was unable to work due to psychiatric disorders. I stared at the evidence, feeling sick. They were going to have me declared mentally incompetent, weren't they? That was the end game, Cordelia confirmed, pulling out a thick folder. We found drafts of mental health petitions in Garrison's computer files. They were going to claim you were delusional, that you'd invented the inheritance as part of a psychotic break, and that your fake business was evidence of your disconnection from reality. Magnolia nodded grimly. The public humiliation last night wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was evidence gathering. They were documenting your unstable reaction to being confronted with the truth about your supposed lies. It would have worked, too, Cordelia added. Without my investigation, you would have looked like a delusional woman claiming ownership of millions of dollars with no evidence to support your claims. They'd manufactured enough fake evidence to make you look completely unreliable. The scope of their planning was breathtaking. Every interaction over the past year suddenly made sense. Serafina's constant borrowing of my laptop to plant fake evidence. Caspian's detailed questions about my business finances so he could monitor my accounts from his bank position. Garrison's insistence on helping with my business setup so he could get my login information. "They've been grooming you for this destruction for over a year," Magnolia said. But they made one critical mistake. What's that? They documented everything. Criminals always think they're smarter than they are, and these particular criminals couldn't resist keeping records of their own cleverness. This family is about to face the full power of the federal government, and they have no idea what's coming. If you're loving this revenge story, smash that like button and share this with anyone who's ever been underestimated. The takedown is about to get insane. Magnolia worked with surgical precision. Within 48 hours, she'd assembled a task force of federal agents, forensic accountants, and cybercrime specialists who treated my case like a master class in white-collar prosecution. The beauty of federal financial crimes, she explained as we reviewed the evidence, is that criminals always leave a paper trail. Your family thought they were being clever, but they've handed us enough evidence to convict a dozen people. The investigation uncovered layers of criminality I never could have imagined. Caspian had been using his position at First National Bank to illegally access customer accounts, not just mine but dozens of others. He'd been selling confidential financial information to identity thieves for over 2 years. Bank fraud, violation of federal privacy laws, conspiracy to commit identity theft, Magnolia listed, checking off crimes on her legal path. Your brother is looking at 25 years minimum, and that's before we add the inheritance fraud charges. Serafina's influencer career had been built entirely on stolen money. The forensic accountants traced every luxury purchase she'd posted about on social media directly to withdrawals from my trust fund. $3,000 Balenciaga bag on March 15th, paid for with your money on March 14th. $8,000 Miami vacation in April, funded by your inheritance. $12,000 worth of professional photography equipment in May, all purchased with stolen funds. They'd even found evidence that Serafina had been coaching other influencers on how to borrow money from family members without getting caught. She'd created an entire online course called Family Funding Secrets that was essentially a guide to financial abuse. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit theft, and running a criminal enterprise, Magnolia added to the growing list of charges. She's going to federal prison for a very long time. But Garrison and Vivian were the masterminds, and their crimes went deeper than anyone had imagined. Look at this, Cordelia said, showing me surveillance footage from the private investigators. Garrison breaking into your P.O. box to steal legal documents. Vivian at the bank, depositing checks made out to you. Both of them at a document forging service, creating fake mental health evaluations. The video evidence was damning. Months of systematic criminal activity, all captured in high definition. Mail tampering is a federal felony with a 5-year mandatory minimum, Magnolia noted. Document forgery adds another 10 years. And we have them on camera committing both crimes repeatedly. But the most shocking discovery came when federal agents executed search warrants on their electronic devices. They kept everything, Magnolia said in amazement, scrolling through files on Vivian's laptop. Email chains planning the fraud. Text messages coordinating their stories. Even voice memos of Vivian practicing her concerned mother performance for media interviews. She clicked on an audio file labeled Practice Run Number 3. Vivian's voice filled the room. We're just a family trying to help our troubled daughter. She's always struggled with reality, and now she's convinced herself she's entitled to money that doesn't exist. It's heartbreaking, really. They documented their own crimes, I said in disbelief. Narcissists always do, Magnolia replied. They're so convinced of their own superiority that they can't resist keeping proof of how clever they think they are. The first sign that they knew they were in trouble came 3 days after my meeting with Magnolia. Vivian started calling me obsessively, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails that we recorded and added to the evidence file. Thessaly, sweetheart, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Someone's filled your head with lies about inheritance money that doesn't exist. Come home and we'll sort this out as a family. Then, an hour later, I don't know what that woman told you, but she's obviously trying to scam you. There is no inheritance, honey. Your biological parents were nobody special. They didn't leave you anything. By evening, the tone had shifted to desperation. Fine. Maybe there was some money, but we spent it on raising you. Do you have any idea how much it costs to feed and house a child for 23 years? We were just taking what we were owed. Each voicemail was another nail in their legal coffin. Garrison took a different approach. He launched a social media campaign claiming I was a master manipulator who had seduced an elderly businesswoman into changing her will. He posted photos of me at family gatherings with captions like, "The predator at work," and how she earned our trust before betraying it. The posts got enough traction that local news picked up the story, running a segment about inheritance scams targeting successful business owners. Garrison appeared on camera, playing the concerned stepfather perfectly. Thessaly has always been troubled, he said, managing to look both authoritative and heartbroken. She's convinced herself that she's entitled to money that doesn't belong to her. We're just hoping she gets the help she needs before she destroys more lives. But his media strategy backfired spectacularly when investigative reporters started digging into his claims. Within 24 hours, they'd uncovered the federal investigation and his own criminal background. Local man under federal investigation claims victim is scammer, read the follow-up headline. The reporter had done their homework, interviewing neighbors who'd witnessed the night they threw me out and financial experts who explained how inheritance fraud actually worked. Serafina tried to salvage her influencer career by playing the victim. She posted tearful videos about how her sociopathic adopted sister had destroyed their family with false accusations. Family betrayal hits different, she sobbed into her camera. When someone you trusted uses federal agents to destroy your life over money that isn't even real. I can't even describe the pain. Please keep our family in your prayers during this difficult time. But her followers weren't buying it. The comments on her videos were brutal. Something doesn't add up about this story. Why would the feds get involved if it was just family drama? Your sister seemed pretty calm for someone who was supposed to be crazy. This feels like damage control. Girl, stop talking and get a lawyer. Caspian's approach was the most threatening. He sent me a series of text messages that Magnolia immediately flagged as federal witness intimidation. Thessaly, this has gone too far. Mom's having panic attacks. Dad might lose his business. Just drop the charges and we can all move on. You're being selfish. Family means forgiving each other. We took you in when no one else wanted you. Show some gratitude. If you think you can destroy us and get away with it, you're wrong. We have friends in law enforcement. We have connections you don't know about. You better watch your back. Accidents happen to people who don't know when to quit. Perfect, Magnolia said when I forwarded the messages. Threatening a federal witness is another 5 years minimum. He just guaranteed himself a longer sentence. The mistake that sealed their fate came from Serafina's complete inability to stay off social media, even when facing federal charges. Despite her lawyer's increasingly frantic advice to remain silent, she couldn't resist going live on Instagram to defend herself against the haters. You people don't understand what it's like to have your family destroyed by lies, she said, pacing around her bedroom while 3,000 viewers watched her unravel in real time. Thessaly was never really family anyway. She was adopted. We took her in out of charity, out of the goodness of our hearts, and this is how she repays us. The comments were already turning against her. Girl, stop talking, this ain't it, you're making it worse. Where's your lawyer? This is going to court. But Serafina was on a roll, years of resentment and entitlement pouring out in a stream of consciousness that was being recorded by thousands of people. And you know what? That money was just sitting there in some account she didn't even know about. We had bills to pay. We had a family to support. We deserved it more than someone who couldn't even appreciate what she had. We earned that money by raising her ungrateful ass. The live stream went completely silent for a moment. Even the comments stopped scrolling. Then chaos erupted. Did she just confess? Oh my god, she admitted it, screenshot everything, this is going to court. She really just said they stole the money, federal crime on live TV. Serafina's face went white as she realized what she'd said. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. But it was too late. Someone had screen recorded the entire confession. Within an hour, the video was on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube. Hashtag Serafina Confesses started trending, with legal experts and true crime enthusiasts analyzing every word of her admission. Magnolia called me 20 minutes after the live stream ended, practically singing with joy. She just confessed to federal wire fraud on a live stream watched by 3,000 people, she said. Her own lawyer probably just fired her by email. The confession opened up new avenues for investigation. With Serafina's admission on record, Magnolia was able to get additional search warrants for their electronic devices and financial records. What they found was a treasure trove of evidence that painted a picture of criminal enterprise that went back even further than we'd originally thought. "Look at this," Magnolia said, showing me email chains that made my blood boil. "They've been planning to steal your inheritance since you were 24. Here's Vivian writing to Garrison. We need to start laying groundwork now. T's birthday is coming up and we can't let her find out about the trust." Another email from Garrison to Caspian. "Start monitoring her accounts now. We need to know exactly how much money she has access to so we can plan accordingly." And most damning of all, a voice memo from Vivian to Serafina. "Remember, if anyone asks, she's always been unstable. We have documentation going back years. By the time we're done, no one will believe a word she says." The federal agents arrived at 1247 Maple Grove Lane at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in November. I wasn't there to see it in person, but thanks to Serafina's inability to stop live streaming even during a federal raid, the whole thing was captured for posterity. The video started shaky and panicked, clearly filmed from Serafina's bedroom window as black SUVs filled the driveway. "Oh my God, you guys, there are like 10 federal agents at our house right now," she whispered to her phone, apparently not understanding that live streaming a federal raid was probably not her smartest move. "This is about Thessaly's lies, I know it is." The comments were immediate and brutal. "Stop streaming and call a lawyer, this is evidence now, girl you are so done, the feds don't come for lies, delete this." Agent Rodriguez, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s with the bearing of someone who'd seen every type of criminal, knocked on the front door with the kind of authority that couldn't be ignored. "Federal agents with a search warrant," she announced clearly. "We need all residents to exit the house immediately." Through Serafina's phone, I watched Garrison stumble to the door in his bathrobe, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally, pure terror as he read the warrant. "What the hell is this about?" he asked, his voice cracking with panic. "Federal investigation into wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, and identity theft," Agent Rodriguez replied calmly. "We'll need you to step aside while we execute this warrant." "This is about that girl, isn't it?" Vivian appeared behind Garrison, already fully dressed and made up despite the early hour. Even facing federal agents, she couldn't resist performing for the cameras. "That ungrateful little..." "Ma'am," Agent Rodriguez interrupted smoothly, "I'd recommend you not finish that sentence. And I'd definitely recommend you contact an attorney immediately." The search took 6 hours. Federal agents, forensic accountants, and computer specialists methodically dismantled their entire life, seizing everything that could be used as evidence. They took computers, phones, filing cabinets, bank records, even Serafina's ring lights and camera equipment. Every device that had been used to commit crimes, every document that proved their guilt, every piece of equipment purchased with stolen money. "They're taking my equipment," Serafina wailed to her phone as federal agents carried out her professional setup. "This is harassment. This is illegal. They can't just take my livelihood." The comments were unsympathetic. "Your livelihood was built on stolen money. Maybe shouldn't have confessed on live TV. This is what happens when you commit federal crimes, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You literally documented your own crimes." Agent Rodriguez appeared in frame, clearly having spotted Serafina's live stream. "Ma'am, you need to end that broadcast immediately," she said firmly. "You're potentially compromising an ongoing federal investigation." "I have rights," Serafina protested. "This is America. I can livestream whatever I want." "You can also be charged with obstruction of justice," Agent Rodriguez replied calmly. "Your choice." The stream ended abruptly. Within hours of the raid, all their bank accounts were frozen. Garrison's contracting business was shuttered pending investigation. Serafina's social media accounts were suspended for posting evidence related to an ongoing federal case. Caspian was suspended from his job at the bank pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. If you believe in justice, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. What do you think should happen to them next? Let me know in the comments. The story exploded across local and national media within 24 hours. Local family under federal investigation for $585,000 inheritance fraud, read the headlines, But the coverage was far different from Garrison's earlier sympathetic interviews. This time, investigative reporters had done their homework. They interviewed Mrs. Holloway, who said she'd always suspected something wasn't right about how they treated that poor girl. Mr. Pettigrew admitted he'd recorded the night they threw me out because it seemed like something that might be important later. The footage of them destroying my belongings while live streaming became key evidence in the federal case. Even the Patterson twins' mother went on record saying she'd seen Garrison intercepting mail from my P.O. box dozens of times over the past year. But the most damaging coverage came from financial crime experts who explained exactly how sophisticated the fraud had been. This wasn't a crime of opportunity, Dr. Sarah Chin, a forensic accounting professor, told Channel 7 News. This was a systematic, premeditated theft that required months of planning and coordination. The psychological manipulation alone shows a level of calculated cruelty that's rarely seen in family financial crimes. Legal analyst Michael Torres was even more direct. The Ashworth-Caldwell family didn't just steal money. They constructed an elaborate psychological torture chamber designed to make their victim doubt her own reality. This is financial abuse at its most sophisticated and cruel. The coverage triggered an avalanche of support for me and condemnation for them. Strangers started sending flowers to Cordelia's office. Women's advocacy groups held rallies supporting victims of family financial abuse. A GoFundMe for legal expenses, which I didn't need, raised $47,000 in 3 days before I asked them to donate it to other victims. But the family's response to the media attention only made things worse for them. Garrison gave another interview, this time claiming that I had seduced federal agents into believing my lies and that the whole investigation was part of an elaborate scam I was running. She's always been manipulative, he said, his desperation obvious to anyone watching. She probably promised those agents money if they helped her frame us. This is all part of her delusion. The interview was so unhinged that even the reporter looked uncomfortable. It ended abruptly when Garrison started ranting about deep state conspiracies and corrupt federal agents. Legal experts who analyzed the interview on social media were unanimous. This man just guaranteed himself a longer prison sentence. Over the next 3 months, Magnolia and her team built a case so comprehensive that defense attorneys started calling it the perfect prosecution. They had everything: video evidence, audio confessions, financial records, electronic communications, and witness testimony from dozens of people. In 30 years of prosecution, Magnolia told me during one of our preparation sessions, I've never seen a case where the defendants documented their own crimes so thoroughly. They literally did half our work for us. The evidence was overwhelming. 847 separate electronic transfers totaling $585,000. 23 forged documents with fraudulent signatures. 156 intercepted pieces of mail. 67 false tax filings and insurance claims. 12 hours of recorded confessions and admissions. 294 social media posts documenting purchases made with stolen money. But beyond the financial crimes, they'd also uncovered evidence of systematic psychological abuse that painted a picture of deliberate, calculated cruelty. They didn't just steal your money, Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the court-appointed psychologist, explained after reviewing their communications. They orchestrated a campaign of psychological terrorism designed to destroy your sense of reality and self-worth. This is textbook narcissistic abuse taken to its logical extreme. The psychological evaluation would become a key part of the sentencing recommendations, showing that their crimes weren't just about money, but about power and control. Meanwhile, the family's legal situation continued to deteriorate. Their first lawyer quit after discovering the extent of their crimes. Their second lawyer was sanctioned by the court for filing frivolous motions. Their third lawyer tried to negotiate plea deals that Magnolia rejected without discussion. They're looking at decades in federal prison, she told their latest attorney during a pre-trial conference. The only question is whether they want to show remorse and cooperate, or continue denying reality and face maximum sentences. The family chose to continue denying reality. Vivian insisted she was the victim of a vindictive adopted daughter who was destroying an innocent family. Garrison claimed he was being framed by corrupt federal agents working with me to steal money that doesn't exist. Serafina maintained that her live-streamed confession was taken out of context and that she was the real victim of cyberbullying. Caspian was the only one who seemed to understand the gravity of his situation, but by then it was too late. His cooperation might have earned him a reduced sentence 6 months earlier, but after months of witness intimidation and obstruction charges, prosecutors were no longer interested in deals. The federal sentencing hearing was held on a gray December morning in Judge Harrison's courtroom. The gallery was packed with reporters, victim advocates, financial crimes investigators, and members of the public who'd been following the case online. Judge Harrison was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who'd built her reputation on harsh sentences for white-collar criminals. She'd reviewed every piece of evidence, every psychological evaluation, and every victim impact statement. Garrison went first. His lawyer, looking exhausted and defeated, tried one last time to argue that his client was just following Vivian's lead. Your Honor, my client was manipulated by a woman who convinced him that they were protecting the family's interests. He's a simple contractor who didn't understand. Judge Harrison held up a hand. Counselor, are you seriously arguing that your client didn't know it was illegal to forge federal documents and steal over $500,000? Well, no, Your Honor, but... Are you arguing that he didn't know it was illegal to intercept someone else's mail and destroy legal documents? Not exactly, Your Honor. Are you arguing that he didn't know it was illegal to file false tax returns using someone else's identity? The lawyer looked defeated. No, Your Honor. Judge Harrison consulted her notes, her expression growing colder by the minute. Mr. Caldwell, you transferred $585,000 across state lines knowing it didn't belong to you. You forged federal documents. You filed false tax returns. You physically destroyed evidence. You threatened a federal witness. She paused, looking directly at Garrison, who was sweating profusely despite the air conditioning. But beyond the financial crimes, the evidence shows that you took pleasure in psychologically torturing your victim. The surveillance footage of you destroying her personal belongings, the recordings of you laughing about her distress, the social media posts where you publicly humiliated her. This wasn't just theft, Mr. Caldwell. This was sadism. Sentence: 5 years federal prison, $200,000 in fines, full restitution, and a lifetime ban from serving as anyone's financial guardian. Serafina sobbed through her entire hearing. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was just a young woman who made a mistake. Miss Caldwell, Judge Harrison said, reading directly from printouts of Serafina's social media posts, you didn't just steal money. You monetized cruelty. You turned your victims' suffering into content for your social media followers. Serafina tried to interrupt. Your Honor, I was just... You were just what? Just documenting federal crimes? Just profiting from trauma? Just building your brand on stolen money? The judge held up a thick folder. You live-streamed your victim's humiliation. You confessed to federal crimes on social media. You even taught other people how to commit family financial abuse through your online courses. Your Honor, I didn't know. You didn't know that spending someone else's money was theft? Miss Caldwell, you're 24 years old, not 4. You showed a complete lack of empathy and a willingness to profit from cruelty that suggests you view other people as content to be consumed. Sentence: 3 years federal prison, $100,000 in fines, permanent ban from social media monetization, and a restraining order preventing her from contacting me for 10 years. Caspian tried to claim he was a minor player, but the evidence showed otherwise. Mr. Caldwell, Judge Harrison said, you used your position at a financial institution to commit federal banking crimes. You violated the trust that customers place in their banks. You sold confidential information to identity thieves. She held up printouts of his text messages. These messages show you actively strategizing about how to cover up your crimes. You weren't following orders. You were running a criminal enterprise from your workplace. Sentence: 18 months federal prison, $50,000 in fines, lifetime ban from working in financial services, and 5 years probation. Vivian was the last to be sentenced, and her hearing was the most dramatic. She stood before Judge Harrison in an orange jumpsuit, Her performance mask finally cracked beyond repair. "Your Honor," she said, her voice trembling, but still carrying that familiar manipulative undertone, "I know what we did was wrong. But Thessaly was never our real daughter. We took her in when no one else wanted her. We gave her everything, and she never showed us any gratitude." "Stop." Judge Harrison's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. "Just stop." The silence stretched for a long moment. "Mrs. Ashworth, I've presided over hundreds of financial crime cases. I've seen greed, desperation, addiction, mental illness, every possible motivation for theft. But I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty directed at someone so vulnerable." Vivian tried to speak again, but Judge Harrison held up a hand. "You exploited your position as this young woman's adoptive mother to steal her biological mother's legacy. You spent years conditioning her to doubt her own reality. You manufactured evidence to make her appear mentally unstable. You orchestrated her public humiliation for social media content." The judge's voice grew harder. "You didn't just steal money, Mrs. Ashworth. You tried to steal her identity, her sanity, her sense of self-worth. You took a woman who had already lost her biological parents and tried to convince her that she was worthless." "Your Honor, I never meant." "You never meant what?" "The psychological evaluation concludes that you show patterns consistent with malicious narcissism and a complete lack of empathy. You are a predator who targeted the most vulnerable person in your household." Sentence: 7 years federal prison, $300,000 in fines, full restitution with interest, and a permanent restraining order. 6 months after the sentencing, I stood in the lobby of what used to be Garrison's office building. Cordelia and I had purchased it at the federal asset forfeiture auction for 37 cents on the dollar, and we were turning it into the headquarters for our expanded real estate empire. "What do you want to call it?" Cordelia asked, looking at the empty space that would soon house our operations. "The Morningstar Center," I said without hesitation. "A place where women can build their own empires without having to apologize to anyone for their success." The business had exploded under our joint leadership. With my marketing expertise and her decades of real estate experience, we'd become an unstoppable team. In 6 months, we'd acquired 12 new properties, launched a women's entrepreneurship program, and established a foundation that helped victims of family financial abuse. The Thessaly Morningstar Foundation had already helped 43 women escape financially abusive situations and provided seed funding for 17 women-owned businesses. We'd partnered with federal prosecutors to create educational programs about inheritance fraud, and I'd testified before Congress about the need for stronger protections for vulnerable victims. I'd been featured on the cover of Forbes as one of their 30 Under 30 Women Building the Future. The article called me a reminder that the best revenge is massive success, and detailed how I'd turned personal trauma into a business empire worth over $15 million. But my favorite recognition came from Mrs. Holloway, who'd nominated me for the city's Citizen of the Year award for my work helping other women. "That girl always had more strength than her family deserved," she'd written. Now she's using that strength to help others find theirs. The package arrived on a Tuesday morning with no return address, just my name written in elegant handwriting. Inside was a flash drive and a note. "I thought you should have this. Your mother asked me to give it to you when you were ready. I think you're ready now. Cordelia." I plugged the flash drive into my laptop with trembling hands. The video file was labeled "For my daughter, when she finds her strength." My biological mother's face appeared on the screen, and the resemblance was startling. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same stubborn jawline. She looked young, maybe 30, sitting in what appeared to be the same office where Cordelia and I now worked. "My darling Thessaly," she said, and her voice was warm honey over steel. "If you're watching this, it means you've found your way to the truth. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to guide you through it, but I hope I've left you the tools to build something extraordinary." She talked for 47 minutes about her dreams for the business, her hopes for my future, her plans for the foundation we'd now created together. She talked about the importance of chosen family, about building networks of women who supported each other's success. "I know they'll try to convince you that you owe them something," she said, and chills ran down my arms. "They'll try to make you feel grateful for basic human decency. They'll try to convince you that love is something you have to earn. She leaned closer to the camera, fierce and protective. Listen to me carefully, sweetheart. Love is not a transaction. Family is not a debt. You don't owe anyone gratitude for treating you like a human being. And you never, ever have to apologize for taking up space in this world. The part that broke me open and put me back together was at the very end. Never let anyone convince you that you're not worth fighting for, she said, looking directly into the camera like she could see me across time and space. Never let anyone make you feel small or apologetic for existing. Build something beautiful, my love. And don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve it. I closed the laptop and looked around my penthouse office in the Morningstar Center. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city sprawling below me, full of possibilities and potential. Somewhere out there, Vivian was mopping floors in federal prison, learning that orange jumpsuits weren't as flattering as she'd hoped. Serafina was discovering that prison didn't allow ring lights or selfie sticks. Garrison was finding out that federal penitentiaries didn't have home improvement projects. Caspian was learning that federal felon made job applications challenging. And me? I was building something that would outlast all of us. My phone buzzed with a text from Indigo. Lunch tomorrow? I want to hear about the affordable housing project. I smiled and typed back, can't wait. I have so much to tell you. Because the best revenge wasn't just success. It wasn't just justice. It wasn't even just helping other women escape the same trap. The best revenge was using every tool they'd tried to destroy me with, my determination, my refusal to give up, my ability to build something from nothing, and turning it into something that would help people long after I was gone. The empire my mother started was now mine to build. The foundation she dreamed of was helping women find their power every day. The family I'd chosen was stronger than any blood bond. I picked up my phone and called Cordelia. Ready for the next acquisition? I asked. Always, she said. What did you have in mind? I want to buy the house on Maple Grove Lane, I said. I want to turn it into transitional housing for women leaving financially abusive situations. There was a pause, then Cordelia's warm laughter. Your mother would be so proud. I know, I said, looking out at the city I was helping to reshape. I can feel her smiling. From garbage bags to $15 million empire builder. Thessaly's revenge was absolutely perfect. If this story inspired you to never let anyone treat you as less than your worth, subscribe to Revenge with Nick for more incredible true stories of justice. Like this video if you believe strong women always rise above those who try to destroy them, and share both parts with every woman who needs to see that their day of justice is coming. What was the most satisfying part of Thessaly's revenge? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you missed part 1, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching this incredible journey with me. Remember, the best revenge is building something so beautiful that your enemies can only watch from prison while you change the world.